Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Welcome to today's reading from Brilliant as the Sun, a retelling of Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Part 1, Vidur's Pilgrimage. And we are going to begin Chapter 6, Creation of the Universal Form. After the gods pray, Mahavishnu enters the Mahatattva as Garbhodakshai Vishnu along with goddess Kali, who is time. Vishnu along with goddess Kali, who is time, the Lord awakens the living beings lying unconscious within him, and universal form begins to take shape. He expands as Kshirodakshai Vishnu, the one consciousness within all beings, which as we all know is Super Soul. Prabhupada writes everywhere, and it has Super Soul, and it's also called Paramatma, as the 10 life heirs and as the 3 subdivisions of Ahankar. So I'll repeat. Mahavishnu expands as Kshirodakshai Vishnu, the one consciousness within all beings, as the 10 life heirs and as the 3 subdivisions of Ahankar, or the false ego. Then the gods enter their respective domains. Maitreya also describes the factors determining what body a living entity receives and how the Virat Roop generates the 4 social orders. Finally, the 2 men glorify Krishna, expressing how it is impossible to fully understand his pastimes, including that of creation. But there is great spiritual benefit in discussing them. So, as everybody tells us, that it doesn't matter if we don't fully understand the pastimes or the Leelas of Krishna, but just hearing them is so much purifying for our spiritual upliftment and for the conditioning we have on our souls from millions of lifetimes or even more. And until that conditioning is lifted from our souls, we cannot surrender ourselves completely to the Lord, fully to the Lord, and enjoy the bhakti or the devotional service to the Lord. A flock of swans alighted on the shimmering river, the loud flapping of the wings slowing their descent onto the water. The commotion broke Maitreya's concentration. Squinting up at the late afternoon sun, he suggested they bathe in the river and prepare to chant their evening prayers, as it would soon be twilight. When the 2 men were again seated comfortably and had stoked the campfire, Vidur asked Maitreya what happened after the gods had prayed to Vishnu. Verses 1 and 2 from chapter 6, Canto 3 of Bhagavatam. Maitreya said, when the Lord heard that the creation had been suspended because the gods were unable to collaborate with each other, he entered the 23 elements as Garbhodakshai Vishnu, along with his powerful consort, goddess Kali, who manifested herself as time. Vidur raised his eyebrows. He had not known that time was Kali, the destructive goddess. I think I shouldn't say Kali, I should say Kali, because this is how we say, isn't it? Because there's no diacritic on the book here, so I just said Kali. It's Kali, the destructive goddess, generally worshipped by persons in the mode of ignorance. Maitreya said, once Vishnu and time entered the material elements, the living beings who have hitherto been unconscious become active. Vidur had heard this previously. He knew that after the cosmic annihilation or the destruction, the eternal living beings remain unconscious for millions of years. When the creation is again revived, the Super Soul awakens them and reminds them of their past unfinished desire. So this is what all of us have been doing, all the living entities, whether it's humans or other species of life. We become unconscious when the cosmic annihilation takes place, and when it's revived, the super soul awakens us, and it reminds us all the unfulfilled desires we have from the past lives, and our souls become active again in various species, various bodies, according to our desires. Verse 4, Maitreya said, when the living beings awaken, the Lord's universal form, known variously as the Virat Roop or the Vishwaroop, comes into existence. Vidur remembered that Krishna had shown his universal form on the battlefield of Kurukshetra to convince everyone that he is the origin of cosmos and not its its product. Although some yogis meditate on the Virat Roop, it is not eternally present in the spiritual sky. Rather, like Krishna's deity form, the Virat Roop is a material manifestation of the Lord. Nevertheless, such forms are fully imbued with Krishna's spiritual potency. Vidur was so eager to learn exactly how Garbhodakshai Vishnu manifested the material universe. Now, verses 5 and 6 of chapter 6. Maitreya continued, when Garbhodakshai Vishnu entered the universal elements, they combined to create the gigantic universal form, the Virat Roop, also known as Hiranyamaya, because of its golden hue. Lay on the Garbhodak ocean for 1,000 celestial years, and all the living entities and planetary systems lay within him. I'll repeat, the Virat Roop, also known as Hiranyamaya because of its golden hue, lay on the Garbhodak ocean for 1,000 celestial years. It's not our earthly years, it's celestial years, which are much, much longer. And all the living entities and planetary systems lay within him. Vidur wanted to know what happened during those 1,000 years. Now, this is given in the verse 7. Maitreya said, this embryonic stage of the gigantic universal form divides himself into one consciousness, 10 life activities and 3 divisions of Ahankar. So I will just quickly have a look for the Ahankar in glossary. Okay, Ahankar is being defined as false ego, or the false conception that I am the doer, which all of us we have in our subtle body. And just to give you a quick recap, subtle body comprises of intelligence, soul, false ego, and of course, mind. Vidur's eyes widened. One consciousness. He knew some yogis believe that we are all one with the Supreme. This contradicted Krishna's teachings to Arjun that everyone is an eternal individual. He had heard other Krishna devotees argue that the individual souls become one with the Lord in the sense that they can dovetail their will with his will, but that they never lose their individual consciousness. Maybe this is what Maitreya meant. So this is very important. Few lines we have read, that individual souls become one with the Lord in the sense that they can dovetail their will. So whatever desires the devotees have, they can just dovetail it in a sense that they will use those desires in the devotional service or the bhakti of Krishna, but that they never lose their individual consciousness. Maybe this is what Maitreya meant. So even if we are going to serve Lord in the Golok Vrindavan, if we are lucky enough that after certain lifetime we are able to reach back to the Godhead, but over there as well we will not lose our individual consciousness. We'll have our individuality. So that's why we worship Lord as in the personal form, not in the impersonal form. We don't say that we become one with Lord. We have our own identity, but thing is, what rasa we have, how we are going to serve, which mood we are going to, which mellow we are going to serve Krishna, that is slowly going to be revealed to us as we keep on doing our bhakti and keep on serving the Lord. Each one of us has got a certain mood, certain rasa, certain mellow or bhav in which we serve the Lord over here, and as we keep doing it, it will get revealed to us, and then our permanent rasa will be revealed, how we are going to serve the Lord in Golok Vrindavan, in his abode. Verse 8. As these doubts went through Vidur's mind, Maitreya continued to speak. Garbhodakshaya Vishnu is the foundation of Virat Roop. He is the first expansion of Mahavishnu, as powerful as the Lord. His spiritual body generates the unlimited individual souls, and as such he is the very essence of all living beings. The total material creations rest and flourish within his body. Vidur was puzzled. Vishnu was the essence of all living beings. It seemed that Maitreya was indeed saying that the individual jiva souls were one with the Lord. Sensing Vidur's doubt, Maitreya explained that although the living beings come from Vishnu, they are not equal to him. The Lord has two types of expansions: those who are equal to him, and the minute expansions with independent wills like him. These are the living beings. Although their desires are separate from Krishna's, they are his parts and parcels, and he sustains them. Vidur still looked confused. If many separated souls emanate from Vishnu, why had Maitreya said that he expands one consciousness? Verse 9, Maitreya smiled. It can certainly be puzzling, but I shall explain. Garbhodakshaya Vishnu expands as the one consciousness who is Kshirodakshaya Vishnu. So there are three Purusha avatars, as we keep on hearing again and again. Karanodakshaya Vishnu, which is from which the whole of the cosmos comes, and then there is Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, all the different universes they come and this all the different universes get the life, that he's the life and soul of all the living universes and the living entities. And then comes the Kshirodakshaya Vishnu, who sits as a localized form of Paramatma in each and every living entity's heart. So Garbhodakshaya Vishnu expands as the one consciousness who is Kshirodakshaya Vishnu, a fully powerful form of the Lord. He sits in everyone's heart as the supersoul along with the individual soul who originates from the Lord's internal or superior energy. Garbhodakshaya Vishnu also generates the 10 life airs and the 3 subdivisions of Ahankar, Adhidev, Adhyatma and Adhibhut. These come from the Lord's inferior or external energy. You should also know that the 10 life airs controlled by the supersoul in the heart cause all body movement. I think I should also read the appendix 2 regarding these few lines which I've read, because it's very good to know for all of us. So in verses 7 to 9, I'll read the whole of the appendix 2 then. Appendix 2, how Vishnu manifests the universe. This is 6th chapter, verses 5 to 9. Verses 5 to 6, as we heard, Garbhodakshaya Vishnu lies down on the universal water which covers half of the universe. The material universe we're talking about here, our material universe. Then the second is a golden energy known as Hiranyamaya emanates from him and pervades the universe for 1000 celestial years. And then at the end of 1000 years, Lord Brahma is born. 1000, not our earthly years, it is the celestial years. Verses 7 to 9, developments during the 1000 celestial years preceding Brahma's birth. So Garbhodaksha Vishnu divides himself into 10 life years which power all bodily movements, and then one consciousness which is the central energy seated in the heart, which is the Kshirodaksha Vishnu, and 3 subdivisions of Ahankar. So what are the 3 subdivisions of Ahankar? They are, first is Adidev, transformation of the mode of goodness. It generates the administrative gods and the mind. We read that yesterday in chapter 5. So, and the second one is the Adhyatma. It is the transformation of the mode of passion. It generates the bodily senses, and such as eyes, ears, mouth, etc. And lastly is Adibhut, which is a transformation of the mode of ignorance. It generates the subtle and gross elements. The 10 life years which I mentioned first, they are, the 10 life years are, as you all know, you must have heard in all the yoga programs you see on the TV, the prana, which passes through the nose. The second is apan, which passes through the rectum. Third is the udan, which passes through the throat. Fourth is vyan, which circulates through the entire body. Fifth is saman, assists the digestion. Sixth is naga, it facilitates opening of eyes, mouth, etc. Seventh is kuma, which helps contraction. Eighth is krakara, which increases the appetite. Ninth is the devadatta, which helps relaxation, induces yawning like we do. And 10th is dhananjay, which helps sustenance. Vidur wondered what part the individual soul played, since the supersoul was responsible for body movement. So Vidur's questions are so important for all of us. They explain so much to us. And thank you to both Krishna Dharma Prabhu and Mataji. They have explained everything so simply to us that they have put so many realizations from the purports of Prabhupada and various other resources, and it's all thanks to them that we can understand the Bhagavatam so nicely. Because everybody says that we cannot understand the Bhagavatam without the help of the devotees. They explain in their lectures, in their classes, and that makes it easier for us to understand. Maitreya explained that the soul is simply conscious of his experiences, and even this is made possible by the Lord's Jnana Shakti, or the knowledge potency. Verse 10, Maitreya further explained, when the gods prayed to the Lord to help them to execute their service of creation, he manifested the Virat Roop, the universal form, by his Chit Shakti. So what is Chit Shakti? Chit Shakti is, as we all know, it explains in the glossary. In Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary on this verse, he writes, by his Chit Shakti he manifested this universal form so that the elements could perform their functions. In Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Leela chapter 2, text 101, we learn that the Chit Shakti is one of the Lord's internal spiritual energies. And the Gyan Shakti we just read in the paragraph prior to that is written in the purports by Prabhupada as, consciousness is the sign of the living entity or the soul. The existence of the soul is manifest in the form of consciousness called Jnana Shakti. Vidura asked Maitreya to explain in detail how the Virat Roop assisted the gods to create, verses 11 to 26. Hear from me, said Maitreya, how the various gods were each given a residence in the universal form. When the Lord's mouth appeared, the fire god Agni entered it along with the subtle sense organ, the mouth. Thus living beings are able to speak. Maitreya explained that the tongue, nostrils, eyes, skin, ears, genitals, anus, hands and feet were all manifested by the Virat Roop and respectively occupied by Varun, the Ashwini Kumars, Surya, Vayu, Dikpals or gods of the directions, Daksha, Mitra, Indra and Vishnu, who then took responsibility for administering these senses. This Vishnu is not the Supreme Lord but a Deva of the same name, said Maitreya. He continued, when the Virat Roop manifested intelligence, Brahma entered along with the subtle sense organ of understanding. When he produced a heart where the mind is located, then the presiding deity of mind, the moon god, entered along with the subtle mind. Thus, living beings are able to engage in mental speculation. When the universal form produced false ego, the presiding deity Rudra entered it along with Ahankar. Thus living beings falsely identify with matter, and based on the urges of the body and mind, when he manifested consciousness, Vishnu entered along with the Mahatattva. Thus living beings are able to understand what should and should not be done. So this is the problem with all of us. We just start identifying ourselves with our mind and body, and we just tend to overlook the soul, which is us in reality. Mind goes with us definitely in the subtle body from life to life. We will have the same mind in different lives and the intelligence as well, but the body is left behind. And we have to use our mind in the devotion of the Lord, not in fulfilling our small, minute, mundane desires, which if we keep creating, what is going to happen is it will be forcing our souls to come again and again in the material world to take birth, because the desires which we create in this life, in this body, they are completed only in the material world in different species of life. So what is going to happen, that our soul will have to be reborn to help us to fulfill our desires. So this is what is happening. We are taking birth again and again to fulfill the desires. So we should try our best to dovetail our desires for Krishna. So whatever our skills are, if we can use those skills. So if we cooked something nice, it will be nice if we offer that to Lord and then have it as prasad. So then we won't get any karma. And any other skills we have got, whatever we do, if we offer it to the Lord first, then it will be like they say, dovetailing our desires with the Lord. But if we are just doing it to fulfill our desires, then we are just getting more and more entangled into this material world. And this is what we don't want to, because this is what our souls have been made to do life after life, because of the incessant desires we have. We fulfill one desire and the other one comes up, and then sometimes there could be some desires from some past lives which they just still there, and the good and bad karmas, the consequences attached to them, we have to suffer. Or maybe if it's a good karma, then we just get the happiness, just a flickering happiness, isn't it? It's not permanent. So all these are temporary. It's just an illusion, and we have to remind ourselves and cleanse our hearts with the chanting and serving of the Lord. Vidur pondered what Maitreya meant by subtle sense organs. Now, there is an appendix for that as well. Let me have a look. It is quite comprehensive. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has actually told that corresponding to the spiritual Virat Roop, the Adidev, Adhyatma, Adibhut, and what are the various... I'll just give you one example. So it said that mouth of the spiritual Virat Roop corresponds to the Adidev, Agni, the fire god, in Adhyatma, the subtle sense organ of the voice of ability to speak. In Adhyatma and in Adibhut, it is speech. And similarly, all our organs are corresponding to the spiritual Virat Roop, how we get the power and how they are coming, and it's really so nice how they have put the appendix in such a nice way for us to understand. Eager to learn more, he encouraged Maitreya to explain how the planetary systems developed from the Virat Roop. So Vidur is asking about more. I think I will finish the reading here because there's still a few pages left for this reading. How many more pages? So thank you for joining. Even the screen went. So what I will do is I will catch up with you all next time in our reading. Thank you for joining. Hari Om Tat Sat. Hare Krishna. Wish you all a very blissful week ahead.